Hi and welcome back to the Lifetise YouTube channel, and this is part of our first time buyer series. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and make sure that you sign up for all the notifications. And if you haven't watched any of the other videos in this series, I recommend you go into the playlists and take a look, because we've got everything from mortgages to how much money you need to save, to how to go through the application process for getting a house, everything that you need as a first-time buyer. Now, today's episode is all about the new 95% government-backed mortgages. So what are those? Well, during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of the banks withdrew their 95% mortgages. So those are the mortgages where you only need to put down a 5% deposit instead of the standard 10% or more. And so these mortgages were always really popular with first-time buyers because you don't have to save up as much money in advance. And because of the pandemic, the banks got worried, and so they pulled all of their 95% mortgages from the market, and that meant that it was much harder for first-time buyers to get on the property ladder. So the government has looked at this and has said, right, we need to do something to help first-time buyers, and so we're going to guarantee 95% mortgages to make the banks feel safer about offering them. So the way that it works is you will put down your 5% deposit, and then you'll get a 95% mortgage from the bank, but the government guarantees a part of that. So if for any reason you stopped being able to pay for your mortgage, then the bank isn't going to be as out of pocket as it would be if it was just between you and the bank, because the government is saying, if this person defaults on their mortgage, we, the government, are going to guarantee some of that losses for the bank. So the bank, you don't need to worry about this. You're not going to bear the brunt of it. If anything goes wrong, we, the government, are going to step in. So a lot of first-time buyers are looking at this and thinking, yay, this is my chance to get on the property ladder. Because obviously it's a little bit easier to save a 5% deposit than a 10% deposit. So let's say you're looking to buy a 2-bedroom house somewhere, and that house is going to cost you £200,000. Normally, if you're saving a 10% deposit, that means you're going to have to save £20,000, which seems like an enormous number, I think, for a lot of us. But if you're putting down just a 5% deposit, then you need to save half of that, so £10,000. So for a lot of people, they're looking at this and thinking, great, this is my opportunity to get on the ladder. We're here as always to tell you what's good about this, what's maybe not so good, and what to watch out for. So in terms of how it works, it's going to start from April 2021, so very soon. We don't have all the details yet, they're still trying to finalize it, but it starts in April and it's going to run until December 2022. So about a year and a half you've got. So if you are in the situation where you're saving up for a deposit and you're thinking, how much do I need to save? Then if you're looking to buy quicker, then this 5% deposit, 95% mortgage scheme might help you. However, there are some things that you need to be aware of. In terms of the banks that are going to be offering this mortgage, most of the main high street banks have already signed up. So Lloyds, Halifax, Barclays, Santander, HSBC have all said that they're in for this scheme. What we don't know yet is all of the details of the mortgages that the banks are going to offer. They're still trying to figure that out. So we don't yet know what interest rates those mortgages will have. We don't know how long they're going to be offering a fixed rate mortgage, although the government has said that it wants banks to offer a 5-year fixed rate so that you know how much interest you're going to be paying over at least the first 5 years of your mortgage. If you don't know what I'm talking about fixed rate, interest rates, don't worry. I've got a whole video on how mortgages work that talks you through all of that, and it will become crystal clear. So we're still waiting for the precise details of the mortgages. As soon as we have that, we'll put some info up on lifetise.com. So follow us on socials at Lifetise to make sure that you don't miss out on that info. So for people who are struggling to save a 10% deposit, is this your answer to getting on the property ladder? Well, as with a lot of things, it depends. So here are some of the things that are perhaps not so great about this scheme. Number one, house prices last year went up between around 7 and 10% for first-time buyers. So that means that depending where in the UK you're buying, you might be paying 7% or 10% more for the same property than you would in 2019 and the beginning of 2020. So again, let's take our example of the £200,000 house. That could now cost you $220,000, whereas before it would have cost you $200,000. So you're actually having to spend an extra £20,000 on the same property because prices have gone up so steeply. So even though you're only having to get a 5% deposit, if house prices keep going up and up and up, you're effectively always kind of chasing them, because the 5% is 5% of a bigger amount that you now have to save. So that's one thing. You need to look at this and you need to look at, okay, but how much am I actually paying for this house and is it worth it? So that's the first thing, house prices. The second thing to think about is it better for me to buy a house quicker on a 5% deposit over the longer term? Or is it better for me to wait a little bit longer, save 10%, because then I might get a better interest rate on my mortgage. I'm going to have lower monthly repayments, because obviously if you get a 95% mortgage, you owe the bank more money than if you had a 90% mortgage. And so that means that every month your monthly repayment on your mortgage is going to be higher. So you're going to need to look at, can I actually afford to do this on a 5% deposit basis? Or am I better off over the longer term waiting until I've got that 10% saved? We have a brilliant calculator that will help you look at this. It's called Homefinder and you can find it on our website. The details are here on screen. Just go in, it's free to use, you just have to register and you'll be able to model the difference between what a 5% deposit would look like versus a 10% deposit, and then how that impacts how much you're going to have to pay back each month. Overall, the reaction to these 95% mortgages has been mixed. You know, there's a lot of people for whom it does genuinely represent their way of being able to afford to buy a home. And if that's you, that's great. But for a lot of people, there are concerns around the fact that it will keep house prices artificially high and make it more expensive and harder to actually get on the property ladder. And then other people who are worried about, well, what does it mean for me over that longer term in terms of how much I have to pay for my home, and can I definitely afford those monthly repayments? So as you're trying to work out what's best for you, please use our free Homefinder tool to help you figure that out. If you have questions, as always, put them in the comments. You can get in touch with us on all the social channels at Lifetise. We're always very happy to answer any of your questions. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.